Hello, everybody. Sandy here, aka Montolio, and you guessed it, we are back for another CradleVine League. And you may be getting sick of these by now, as I have not been mixing it up in leagues like I normally do, as of course I am ramping up for Eternal Weekend North America. And this is definitely the front contender of decks that I'm looking to play. I'm not going to go through an exhaustive breakdown of my deck. I do recommend that you go back a couple leagues ago and I do a 10-minute breakdown deck tech on this list. But the basic idea of it behind it is like any other Bazaar deck, we're trying to get Vengevines into play with our 8 free root wallas and our 4 hollow ones. The neat thing about this deck is it is very consistent at casting its spells, and therefore normally I only need to use the Bazaar once, and it's a very common play pattern for opponents to wasteland your Bazaar the turn after it comes into play. But that works out for us because this deck does not have any discard equity in it. Like, we don't have Hogaaks, we don't have Bloodghasts. We are wanting to cast our spells typically after one Bazaar activation, and we do that very consistently with the 7 cradles that you see in the deck. It allows us to cast a turn 2 Collector Roof, get Hex Drinkers going, pump our Basking Root Wallas up, or go as far as casting Vengevines right out of the deck and Force of Vigors. So it is a very polarizing deck in that it does not require Bazaar, unlike all of the other Bazaar decks. And of course, you note that there's 3 Besejus in the deck, and this is something that was brought forth by No Props. If you read their sideboarding guide, they eschewed the Hogaaks and put 3 Besejus main, and our deck is even better at casting them than theirs because they used a Jund Hogak Vine mana base for theirs, and of course we're all on cradles. So that's the basic gist of the deck. Sideboard, as you will note, I mean, the big thing here is Grafdigger's Cage. For people that are sideboarding in hate against us, one, is not very good, and number 2, Grafdigger's Cage is not a card that is expected out of a Bazaar deck. And right now in the current metagame, you're seeing a lot of Jeskai Lurrus running around, and of course Tinker/Breach decks are everywhere, and Grafdigger's Cage lays a beating on those decks when they're not prepared to see a Grafdigger's Cage come out of our deck. It's just not something that's in their sight. So if they don't force a will this card, it's very hard for them to beat. I played in the Vintage RCQ last weekend, ended up going 5-3 with the deck, and in game 2 against the Jeskai Lurrus deck, I ended up finding a Grafdigger's Cage on a mull to 4. It's not what I was looking for, I just had a really bad hand, and the Grafdigger's Cage outright won the game because the only way they can win is with Dread Hordes, Lurrus, and Breach. And of course, Cage shuts all 3 of those facets down. Yes, they can beat down with a 3-2 Lurrus or a 1-3 Dreadhorde, but if that's all they're doing, they're not going to win. I eventually will draw lands and be able to beat you. And that particular game, I followed up with a turn 2 Hex Drinker and slowly pumped it up. I think I went several turns of just pumping it up one or 2 a turn, and Hex Drinker got there. So just some interesting tech. But that said, guys, I've talked longer than I'd like. Let's get into round 1. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Feel free to leave any comments. We'll see you then. Okay, everybody. Sandy here, aka Montolio. We're back for round 1 of our Vintage League. We're playing CradleVine. We won the die roll. And this hand is not going to do. This hand looks really nice. I think I'm going to bottom a Bazaar. As I keep saying, this deck quite often only needs 1 activation of its Bazaar to really go off. Play the Lotus out first because it helps ensure that we're going to be able to get our Vengevine to go here. Okay. So this is a little bit awkward. I think I'm going to ditch the Once Upon a Time here. I know it seems crazy, but the Hex Drinker is actually a very strong card, and we can follow it up with a Gaia's Cradle, and then we can start aggressively churning our Bazaars. it's not perfect. Like we did mulligan, and this card has very poor discard equity. Like we didn't really want to discard any of those cards, did we? So my opponent might force the Hex Drinker here, which is fine too. Okay, they are forcing it. Discarding Ponder. Okay. Let's get on to dealing some damage here. I don't know if that was correct or not. This is what makes this deck so very hard. Oh, Field of Rune. They must be on Oath of Druids. I mean, we're going to take that away while we have an opportunity to do so. So, Field of Rune makes me feel like this is KFC Oath of Druids. And if that's the case, I think we want to hedge and bring in cages. I also think we wouldn't mind having a snow-covered forest in our deck if they do get to Field of Rune us. And, you know, they could be on Beseju, all that sort of stuff. And the Besejus are pretty good against the Oath. I don't think we really want Hex Drinkers, and I think we could take out a Chalice of the Void on the draw. Maybe I'll just keep in a Hex Drinker. Let's try this out, guys. I think this is reasonable. Oath of Druids is not a deck I have a ton of experience playing against with this deck, as it's kind of on the downturn right now in the metagame. But there's always going to be Oath of Druids at Eternal Weekend. That is for sure. We're going to powder this one. Yeah, we can do better than this. I'm tempted. I think we could do better, though. We've lost a Force of Vigor already. And powder this. I think I'll put the Vigor away. Very awkward. I'm going to have to mull down to 5 here. I think this is just where I'm at. I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to put the hollow one and Serum Powder away. I mean, if I find a Bazaar, yes, I'll feel bad that I put the hollow one away, but that's okay. I think that the percentage of finding a Bazaar off of Once Upon a Time is not good. Despite that, we are down to 34 cards. Actually, I am going to put away this, and I'm going to gamble in hindsight. Because we're down to 36 cards, our percentage is significantly better of hitting with Once Upon a Time because we have not seen anything at this point. This still allows me to cast the Cage next turn. Let's see. My opponent might be feeling smug because they have an Oath in hand. Oh, that was just really, really good, guys. Unfortunately, I do have to discard the Mental Misstep. I'm not happy about that, but would have been very nice. We have to ensure that we can cast the Cage next turn to have a good chance at winning this game. I just think this is an Oath that my opponent has. And if we're lucky, we'll rip a Cradle, one of the Cradles. They'll allow us to cast Cage and Beseju, have Beseju up in case the Cage fails. And there's a good chance we have 7 Cradles in our deck. How many do we have left? We lost 1, 2. So we have 5 left out of our 32 cards. there's Oath of Druids. Okay. 4, 8, 12, 13. A Cradle will also win the game here. We didn't hit. They have 3 cards left. So we have 2 choices here. We can spin our Bazaar looking for a Cradle, which I actually think is reasonable because we can discard 3 cards and still have the cage and a land up. The good thing is a Cradle, a Gaia's Cradle, is actually uncounterable here. So I think that this is the best thing to do. And we did hit. I think I just besiege you. Well, I just killed them here, so I don't think it matters. I'm going to discard the Grafdigger's Cage here and just... 4, 8, 12, 15. It's exact. Yep. Right? 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't think we need to worry about besieging here. I don't want to give them the extra land, right? Because they definitely can bring a land in. This is just lethal. Yeah. Like, you never know. They could have a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt or something out of their deck, and we're giving them an unnecessary chance to win. So really nice victory from us there. Once again, Cage looking very nice out of our sideboard here. Splash damage, being able to hit Oath with it. That's not why we're running it. We're running it more to stop Dreadhorde's Lurrus and Breach, Citadel type things, but it obviously hits things like Dredge and Oath of Druids as a result, and would have been very interesting to know whether that would have resolved or not had we have been in a position having to cast it, but we didn't need to. We found a Gaia's Cradle and Exaxes, so we'll take it. Guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you next round. Okay, guys. Here we are, round 2. Welcome. We're playing CradleVine, and we just actually played this opponent. It must be the time of the day that I'm playing in the morning here in Eastern Standard Time, and nobody's probably on queue. In queue at this time, it's not a time I normally play, but that said, I think we got a really nice hand here. We did not win the die roll this time, so we could be facing down an early Oath, which is going to make things difficult for us. Let's see. One of the things that is nice about my opponent's deck is that they are not vulnerable to Wasteland like other decks are, despite we did get them in one of the games last time. We're going to Once Upon a Time here, see what we can find. I think just the hollow one's really good here, and we'll have to hope that we can find another Boseiju off the top of our Bazaar. Going to play my Lotus here. They could be aggressive and take it, which is not bad. Yep, okay, take through time. I'm not averse to that line at all. Boseiju is what we're looking for. We didn't find it. But we're setting ourselves up very nicely for next turn, like with the potential to either do Vigor or the Hex Drinker. We got a number of things we can do, and we'll weigh those out when we get there. Presumably my opponent is going to cast an Oath of Druids here. As we currently stand, we cannot cast the Force of Vigor. We can pitch it, which I think is not unreasonable. They're down to 2 cards. What is the likelihood they have a Force of Will here? If I pitch, we are definitely in some trouble. I can only deal 12. I mean, I think we just have to do it, right? And it did work. Okay. Oh, we would have found Boseiju had we chosen not to do it. Okay. I think this is reasonable. Hmm. Opponent was very aggressive on the mullet or the force. They're down to 5. Our hand is not good, so we have to mulligan, I think. Much better. I'm gonna put that away. We just can't have it all here. That's the problem. I'm going to take a bit of a gamble here. This hand is going to be awkward no matter what we do. And it's the discard equity of the red card that is the least value in our hand. It does trigger our vine, but I'm confident by seeing 8 cards that I'm going to find a second one. Let's see, but if my opponent just happens to turbo into a turn 1 oath, this is fine. Okay, so there's our Force of Vigor target. Of note, Leyline of the Void is not typically an impactful card against what I'm doing. Obviously, our hand is suboptimal here. I could have figured there, but I don't think it's valuable enough for me to just hit Leyline when it's Oath that scares me. And they might force this, and I'm totally okay with that. I think Cradle is the highest value here. Oh, they've just conceded. Okay. They're down a little low there. What would we have drawn? I'm very curious. Yeah, not very well. Would have been an interesting game. I don't think that we would have necessarily had the tools. We would have been able to... I don't think we would have been able to get the Oath next turn. Would have discarded what? So we're going to take the Cradle. Yeah, we might have been okay there. I don't think I would have come off Cradle at that point in time, but I wasn't overly thrilled with the cards I was going to be finding afterwards either. So I think a little bit of an early concession from my opponent, but I think the key there is that, traditionally this is not a very good card against what I am doing, because the only card that it hits in my entire deck is Vengevine, and it just so happened we had a Vengevine in hand. It does happen. But that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next round. Hey everybody, Zandy here. I came on and we're back for round 3 of our Vintage League. We're playing CradleVine today. We did not win the die roll, but this is a solid hand. We're going to keep this one. We've got some interaction, Force of Vigor if need be. Okay, Mana Crypt's a bit scary here. Hopefully we're not facing down a turn 1 Tinker. Time Walk is not that bad. I don't want to get into a battle here of killing their Mana Crypt here. It's a bit scary for sure. But it really just guts my hand to do it. And I think if they had a Tinker, they would have done it. And if they upkeep Mystical here or something like that, then I will respond. Sometimes, despite you're always looking for value out of your plays, they just had a tinker. Wow. Okay. That's wild. They got a citadel. Okay. We are going to try and respond now. I am going to, once upon a time here, see what I can find. Yes, I am telling a little bit about what I'm playing to my opponent, but I think that's okay. Hmm. Do I want to keep the Hex Drinker? I think I kind of do. I think I just pitch the Vine here. And we just have to hope this works. Not optimal, but it's they had a really nice hand. And of course we did not respond with a Tinker. Okay. So the good news is we have a Beseiju for sure that we can do if the Lotus resolves. With 2 mana left over for a Hex Drinker. 2 top, 0 bottom. Okay. I mean, when you play the type of deck that we are and you're on the draw like this just happens. So my opponent's going to tinker into the key. Question is, do they have... I don't think they've played a land drop this turn. Actually, they have. So I guess it's a matter of can they find a mana to get their key going here. And if they can... Wow. The Ancestor was a really nice one there. Okay, they got it. They got it. All right. Nice win from my opponent there. So we definitely want Beseiju. I could see Cage being decent here. I don't think I want to go as deep as Traps right now. But maybe we can hedge with just one. Like, I don't think Hexdrinker is likely to be a huge player in this scenario. Let's try something like this out. I mean, if we find a Bazaar, it's good. But if we don't, we're just dead. I don't think it's necessary. This is a much nicer looking hand. We're going to need some help off our Bazaar here to make this functional, but another Root Wall or Hollow One would be great. We didn't find it. I think the Avamaya Cradle of Growth is going to be very important if we cast Collector Roof next turn. So I'm going to ditch the Cradles here. Once again, it's awkward when you're playing this deck sometimes because you have to discard quality, and that's just the reality. But this now, next turn, if we have to pitch Force of Vigor, we have a Beseiju held up, and if we can cast the Collector Roof, it's solid. And my opponent may be scared of deploying all their mana out here. Apparently they're not. Okay, let's see if they just PO here. And they have. So we are just going to have to be proactive and take their stuff here. I'm actually going to take their... see, I'm not sure what variant they are here. I'm just wondering, do I take their white source to keep them off of a Mentor? Like, I can't beat a Mentor. No. Let's hope it's good. They have a Force of Will. Okay. It's bad news brown for us, guys. And of course, this is a deck that I'm actively concerned about because of the lack of interaction that I have. But we do have game against it. The name Besage here is really sweet if they do. But they might be concerned. Yeah, Besage, very nice. Okay, so they've kept me off my combo here. What we're actively looking for here is a collector roof. That is not a collector roof. Well, it's unfortunate we don't have any plays, but these decks are full of air. So obviously on the other end of that coin is they've got lots of gas too, but they have to find it. Wow. Time Vault, okay. We are still alive here somehow. That's pretty sweet, guys. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to actively try and just build my stuff up here. Bazaar is likely to be gone for this game, and I think by casting our spells is our best bet here. My opponent is going, what is happening with that Grafdigger's Cage? Cage is even better if they're playing Oath as well. Now, the card that can get us here is Time Vault, so we are going to need to get lucky here and find a collector roof for a Vigor here sooner than later. PO as well will expedite that significantly. The Seiju is not what we're looking for here. Opponent very smartly turned off our Beseju. I would feel much safer right now if we had a Beseju. Yeah, that does it too. We have lots of Wasteland still in our deck. Well, not ideal. We're going to be facing down a very big construct here in a turn. This is what we played towards though, right guys? Like that's why we made that decision to play the Serum Powder out and just come off the hope I can Bazaar plan at some point and try and hardcast our creatures. Now, unfortunately, we ran into an Urza Saga, and that happens. It's going to be we've got an Eminent Vault Key here in addition to a very large construct coming my way. So we've got a number of things we need to figure out here. But first and foremost is let's find a Force of Vigor or let's find a Wasteland or Strip Mine. That's what we need off the top. Collector Roof is no longer viable here. I guess it is. We're still just facing a really big set of constructs, but we have lots of these cards in our deck. If we can get lucky and find them, the game will continue. They're empty-handed, so what my library delves is how we're going to fly here. That is not going to do it, guys. All right, well, that's going to be the game. Unfortunately for us, we did not find what we were looking for, but my opponent had very strong hands, and our Force of Vigor was shut off, and as a result of that, we weren't able to get there. And in fairness to my opponent, they knew exactly what they were doing when they named Boseiju, because had they not, this would be a very different game. I think a lot of people are very interesting. Collector Roof in a Once Upon a Time could have been very solid there, but yeah, guys, a really good game and a match that I'm actively seeking. And unfortunately, this one did not work out, but I liked our tools and I liked our line. of working towards deploying some of our bigger spells like Force of Vigor and Hollow One off the top of our library. And unfortunately, our opponent did find their combo there and were able to do something before we got going. See you guys next round. Hey everybody, Sandy here, aka Montolio. We're back for round 4 of our Vintage League with CradleVine. We won the die roll here. And this looks like a nice hand. It's not the most powerful looking, but a Gaia's Cradle off the top or a Hollow One or both could really change the trajectory of how this hand looks. The nice thing about it is we have good discard equity, which is a luxury with this deck. As you know, we don't want to discard the cards in our hand quite often because we want to be casting them. Well, that's pretty nifty. I'm going to discard both the green Root Wallows because I have another card to pitch to Force of Vigor here. And I think the ability with all the Gaia's Cradles and Yavimaya Cradles of Growth in my deck, we have a much higher chance of dealing a significant amount of damage. Now, if we draw a Cradle next turn, we can make that decision as to what we want to do. But very high likelihood we're going to want to Strip Mine. Now, my hope is my opponent's just going to wasteland me here. This is the double beam dream when it happens in this type of a situation. Okay, play Saga. Okay, don't tinker me, bro. Shouldn't say bro, but... Okay, that's exactly what's happened here. And I think that's really good for me because this is a solid tempo play and I have some good interaction in my hand here in general. Well, that's actually an overstatement. The Root Wall and the Serum Powder are cards I would have loved to get out of my hand, but this is not a common situation where I'm like in this position. So this is very nice for me because I am going to react here and I'm going to take their 2 mana away under the face of Thalia. Now, any Cradle that we draw is going to allow me to attack through this Thalia. So it's a bit of a tough spot that we're in if we don't find a Cradle. But we're still pushing through damage and we're not held back at this point. Okay, so this is good for me. I cannot get in right now. But I will play the Strip Mine. And I just have to hope my opponent has no land left. Next turn, we may be penciled into a decision as to whether we want to strip them off their 1 land or do we want to push damage. I mean, we should be able to push damage regardless, unless they play a 1-drop here or they wasteland my Strip Mine, one or the other. Okay, no land, please. Nice, guys. We're just going. I do think that I actually just pump the damage rather than play the Collector Roof here. I think it's worth it. Okay, good win for us there. A little bit awkward that I keep preaching that usually the Bazaar you only need to do it once. This was a particular instance where we would have loved to have had another activation, but still a good tempo play for us, and it was enough to get us the win here. Now, it looks like we're likely playing against a mono white deck, and I don't think Boseiju is likely to be that great. I do think the Forest is reasonable because of the presence of likely Ghost Quarter. I also think that Endurance could be quite good here. Force of Vigor is not likely a play that I'm overly interested in. Pithing Needle could come down and look pretty decent here. But I don't really think it's going to be that good. Hex Drinker, very strong. I think I like this configuration. Let's try it out. The only consideration I really think about Force of Vigor is Pithing Needle and Spirit of the Labyrinth. Those are the 2 cards that are somewhat difficult for me to beat. But this deck is not reliant on Bazaar of Baghdad to the same extent of any other Bazaar deck in the format. I realize John Hogak Vine can cast their spells, but not as consistently as we can. And always one of the tensions that I found when playing John Hogak Vine is when you're spinning your Bazaar or you're getting wastelanded. It's you only have 3 or 4 lands in your deck, depending on your build, that functionally cast your spells, and that is not including Deathrite Shaman being able to produce mana, but it gets to a point sometimes with those decks where you've lost your Badlands, your 2 Taigas, and your Bayou, and you're kind of SOL. So this deck is just very consistent on putting significant mana into play. You have a Bazaar of Baghdad in play that's dead with a Needle or a Spirit of the Labyrinth. You get your Cradle, the Avamaya Growth into play, and all of a sudden you're off to go. So here we go. This is a Pithing Needle resistant hand. I mean, misstep aside, we can start casting Hex Drinkers right away. And it is definitely one of the strengths of this deck, especially when you're on the draw. Like, the Sorcerer Spyglass, Bazaar. Oh, okay. We're going to play Avamaya Cradle of Growth, and we'll have a Cradle next turn that produces a mana in the least, even if the Cradle gets wastelanded. So it's a very resilient deck in that way. And why did I side in the Endurance? The truth of the matter is it's a sneak attack card, and it's a creature, and we're playing against a creature strategy, and you get a Gaia's Cradle into play, and your opponent thinks they can attack through your Piddlywinks, your Root Wallows with their 3/3, and you get them with an Endurance. If I know that Force of Vigor is a better card in this matchup, then perhaps that would be the card to leave for me, and certainly will likely be the card that I cut if this goes to a Game 3 in place of a Chalice. I don't mind the misstep here for Path to Exile either. Or Swords to Plowshares, whatever it is they play. Assuredly a mono white deck will have them. Despite it's a non-bow with Thalia. Thalia is fairly ineffectual against my deck. Wasteland, okay. So there's the Pithing Needle. And I do think it's worth getting rid of the Needle here. I think it's a worthwhile tempo play to Bazaar now, because if we hit with the Vine, it's pretty sweet. I think we can ditch a Cradle here. And we hope to hit a hollow one, right? We could ensure... Oh, damn. Oops. Well, I made the decision for myself there. That was awkward. I was talking away and I clicked through my turn there. But what we're going to do here is, I guess we're just going to pitch this and get the Vine going that way. I should have once upon a time looking for a hollow one. That's really what I wanted to do. But what's going to happen here is my opponent is very likely... yeah, I'll put these back in my deck. It didn't work. I'm really playing tight here. But I think this is fine to get my stuff going. I suspect my opponent is going to wasteland me here, and we're going to try and tempo them out with Cradle here. They could Swords me and wasteland me. But we're very excited to have a Hex Drinker in hand. It's a strong card in this matchup. If I can get it up to 3, I don't think that they can beat it. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it will be very hard for them to beat it if I can get it up to Progenitus level. God forbid I get another hit here. Really, it's a matter of whether my opponent can justify leaving me with a Bazaar. And if they were smart, they would leave it, because I don't want to discard any of these cards in my hand. Ooh, I don't like that. Okay. Well, that's pretty good for them. I did not anticipate seeing all those Moxen. I do think they will wasteland likely now. Thalia in exile. What does that mean? Are they playing a shoal? The white shoal doesn't do anything here. That's like a deflecting palm. Why would this get exiled? Okay, it's a good one. Yep, all right. So that worked out okay. What I would love to see is a collector roof. Okay. This is allowing me to go with the Gaia's Cradle here into a 4/4 right away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attack in and I'm going to pump this. If they block with this, I'm thrilled. Yes, I make my Hex Drinker vulnerable, but that's okay. They realize that. And so we're going to just get this thing up to a 4/4. And next turn, 4/6, we can go Saiyan on them if they leave my land alone. And that's going to close the game. It's just the game's over if that happens, if they don't wasteland me here. I'll literally be able to put it up to 8. No, I guess they could needle the Hex Drinker. That does work. But Luminarch Aspirant is a really good card against my deck in general. But the Hex Drinker changes the math significantly in this matchup. Like, one of the reasons I am playing this deck at Champs with all likelihood is because of the presence of Hex Drinker. It is a dominant card in any type of mid-range matchup. It is a must answer. I've already put this thing out of Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile range. Time is inevitable that this thing is going to take over the game here. Now, if I get my Cradle, taken away from me, yes, it changes the math. But if my plan comes to fruition here where I'm able to untap and this turn make this thing go ultimate, it's very good for me. Now, I suspect my opponent is not going to let that happen. I could see them very much proactively swordsing my Vengevine to keep me off this line. It's not lost on them that if I play a mana-producing land next turn, that it becomes large and I just win the game. So, between the combination of Path to Exile and Wasteland, I'm not anticipating getting away with it this turn, but we're still able to pressure our opponent. Well, depending on what they do. In the least, my Hex Drinker is still a 4/4. I have the option of attacking over the Luminarch. It will become a 3/3 this turn. If they cast another one, obviously I don't want to really attack with the Vine, but let's see. So my opponent is in long deliberation mode here. My opponent has just exiled another Thalia. I'm confused as to what's happening. Oh, it's March. Okay, so they did go after my Vine here, so that was their line. Okay, well, it's pretty good. Just going to keep going here. No need to do too much here. I am going to attack in. My guy is a 4/4. Shouldn't be able to do anything. I may as well push the damage. They realized that next turn, no matter what, had they let that resolve, I was going to win. Well, not necessarily. I would have put them to 1 life, but... All right, Hex Drinker, guys. That's just a prime example of the Hex Drinker taking over a game, and very powerful card and cast quite consistently within this deck, and you can turbo it up to a mini Progenitus very quickly. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please hit the like, subscribe button. We'll see you next round. Okay, guys, here we are for round 5 of our Vintage League. We're playing CradleVine. Alpha Omega, that is not a player's name I've seen in a very long time. This one is not going to do. We have to mulligan that one. This hand looks really nice. If we can somehow hit a green creature here, I'm going to keep this. I think this is a situation where we maybe want the second Bazaar. The reason is if we miss here this turn and we get wastelanded, we'd really like an opportunity to get these Vengevines going. This is a really tough call. Against my better judgment, I'm going to put the Mox away. I realize we could draw a Hex Drinker and we'll feel bad about ourselves because we didn't cast it, but there's a much higher prevalence of hitting a Root Wall or a Hollow one than a Hex Drinker, and I do value the misstep because of the presence of Deathrite Shaman, amongst other great one-drops. Okay, so this is decent. I am going to discard the cards that are obvious here. And we're going to Once Upon a Time now. Let's see what we find. We did find a hollow one. Very nice. I could cast a Collector Roof as well. Problem with the Collector Roof is the Collector Roof does not assure that it's going to get into play. And the hollow ones, or because of the Lotus, they may counter the Lotus, and then I don't have an opportunity to get the Vines going because they're going to see that I brought the Collector from the hand. Oh, it's got a Black Lotus. You won't be able to get the Vines this turn. Let's force it. And so this is an assured thing that I'm dealing 8 damage this turn, and we're going to be holding up lethal next turn. I am going to play out the Black Lotus because of the presence of a turn 1 Tabernacle from a quick Golos, if that's what they're playing, and that is going to give me a bit of leverage that I'm not just dead. Okay. Force of Vigor would have sucked there, by the way, but what are you going to do? Okay. No idea what my opponent's playing here. Just going to do a bit of hedging here. By doing this is, I need to take out another card here. Thinking about it Once Upon a Time here. Just being a little bit cheeky, we got a little extra something for a graveyard strategy. If somebody combos, we have the Mindbreak Trap. We'll be feeling like champs if we draw it. But the truth of the matter is that we can discard both of them very, very reasonably with the Bazaar. So it's not unrealistic to do this, and there's very minor hedges. And why am I doing it? Really, it's just a gut instinct. That's all. I mean, am I watering myself down significantly by removing the Chalice when I'm on the draw? No, I'm not. And by cutting out Once Upon a Time, yes, it's a good card. But Endurance is just a card that hits so many different things in the format and is never irrelevant. Even as a 3/4 sneak attack creature that flashes in. And Mindbreak Trap, of course, is a little bit more suspect because I have no idea what I'm up against. But obviously a really huge card if, my opponent is playing Doomsday or PO and I have it in my opener, I'll feel really happy about it. It's just a very minor thing. And when people concede, sometimes you just have to do things like this when you have no idea what they're playing. And that's the privilege. They've given up a game, but they've concealed the information from me. And, a Magic Online, yes, I look at MTG Goldfish, and there is some minor guidance there in the sense that sometimes these people play combo, other times they're kind of fish style players. They like to the bugs, the rugs, the four colors, that sort of thing, and both these cards could be okay against that. Okay, this looks like a nice 7. We're going to keep it. Oops. Saga's good. Gosh, I wish I had Force of Vigor in my hand here, guys. Let's see if we can find one. I'm going to do the hollow one here. Well, this is something that I thought about. That's a little bit unfortunate with the Yavimaya. I did think about this. Can I discard the red Root Walla? Because I can pump it up with the Ruby here. This is a very strong hand from me. Of course, we've got to dodge Tabernacle. Going to play the Ruby out, see if I can get it to resolve. If they have Mindbreak Trap, yes, it's not optimal, but I prefer the Ruby to be able to ensure that I don't get caught by Tabernacle here. To the full extent anyways. Force of Will, interesting. Okay. All Breach are gone. Good to know. And next turn we're going to be able to bring the Vines back should they die. Okay, good turn. Unfortunately, we did not find a Force of Vigor, but you can't have it all. I mean, sometimes you can, but... Okay, we should be all right here. Oh, there's the Vigor there. Wow, okay. It's going to be pretty nice. Let's see if I can find a... Yeah, I think it's fine to go here. They have another... They can't Hull Breacher me, so... Don't think Bazaar is what I want here. I mean, this is lethal. They have to just block a Vine, and they can kill the Vine, but that's okay. Yep. I'm not going to pump my Root Walla here. I think casting the Collector Roof is just a much stronger play. I think the likelihood they have another Force of Will is not great. Oh, they did have another Force. Wow. So they can make a Construct here. But I am going to kill all their stuff here. They can make a Construct, but it's not going to be enough to save them. I could have waited. Wow, they didn't even do anything. Okay. Wasn't going to matter regardless, but... All right, guys. A nice clean win for our deck there. Funny enough, I mean, a very solid 4-1 for us there. And Yesterday I had a very similar league in that I went 4-1, and the match that I lost both games, and the remainder of the games I won 8-0. And that happened again today. The deck is just very, very powerful. I mean, there's another combo deck that we blew out. We did lose to PO today, but I felt like we were in that one. Just didn't end up working out for us, but very, very solid outing for this deck again. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and feel free to leave any comments. I'm pretty good about getting back to you. And yeah, we're going to see you guys next time.